What is going on, you guys? Thanks for coming by. I just want to talk today about some crazy stuff, some crazy ideas I have about magnets. Magnets. Magnets are kind of cool because they're mysterious and they've been around forever, right? People would find magnetite way back in the day, be like, wow, this is pretty cool. This stuff sticks together. But, there's a lot of things that we've been taught over the years about magnets, and some of them are kind of weird. Like this idea of magnetic fields. Definitely, I'm not saying magnetic fields don't exist or anything like that. But see these lines that we've always been taught? The lines are sort of a mathematical representation of the strength of a field. And, to generate a current, it'll be something like, well, magnetic, a current cutting across magnetic field lines, ideally perpendicular to the magnetic line, right? If a wire cuts across a magnetic field perpendicularly, you can create power out of it, ideally. At the less of an angle, the less reaction you'll get until it's you move a wire like right along, right? If this wire is moving right along a magnetic field line, along the direction of a magnetic field line, you won't get any power. Anyway, these are fundamental. There's nothing controversial, whatever about that. So now here's the thing that's pretty cool. When you kind of take one of these cheap, off the shelf kind of paper, what is this, a magnetic paper thing? What you see like these polar, you realize that, right, the magnet's held like that, right? You realize, and you can think of this as just one log magnet when it's together like that. It's like, see how it's got like it's like two round plumes. Can you see that? I hope you can see that, right? And the weird thing is, like, no matter what you do, and anybody who's like seen this, like, yeah, I know. But then it's like fractal, right? Because if you cut it in half, you get the two plumes, again, right? And further all the way down, and you can get it all the way down to, like a single one, and you still end up. Whoop! Did you see that? You still end up with this dual, this like weird. And notice how the center is always like finds a different spot, right? Remember, the center was right on that single one. Now the center just centers itself because all the fields have, I guess, sort of combined together, right? And it's like how they all agree, and it's very cool. But I don't see any kind of lines. Now I'm spinning it. I'm doing this, right? You can't tell because it's round, but I'm spinning it, right? And there's no sort of lines or anything spinning. So the one thing is, like, you really shouldn't think of it like I think this makes you think of it like as a fiber, like a muscle, right? Like how your muscles have literally fibers like that. But there's no fibers, I don't think. There's any fibers related to this. The density of the lines is there mathematically to represent the strength of the field. And visually that indicates, further apart would be a weaker field. But in the reality of what the actual field is, looks like it's just like I call it a plume, because it just looks like a round. It's a field. Clearly, it's a field. I guess I don't know. We haven't defined field for ourselves here, but yeah, it's a field. But is it lines, or it looks more complex than lines, right? In that we can't really see what it is. So it's sort of like this haze. So it's sort of like almost just like a haze. And there's always this center line, right? This weird center line to it. So I find that interesting. But still, there's nothing controversial here. Now here's the controversy. Here's the thing. I believe that nature has a rule. And if you learned about Maxwell's equations in school or whatever, basically they're the ones that tied together electricity with magnetism, and then of course you have electromagnetism. So you have radio, you have regular simple power, and then you have all these interesting, extrapolating from EM, you have like modulating, frequencies and radio and all. Like radio where you're sending information across. But But the thing is Maxwell's equations have a very strict relationship between, a very fixed relationship between the magnetic flux, the density of a magnetic field, and current going through a wire, right? You pass current through a wire, and you're going to get this magnetic field, and it's going to be stronger the more current you get. Everybody, I'm pretty sure this is common knowledge stuff, right? So now we know that magnetic field gets created through a wire, and then by definition we kind of run it backwards, and we say, well, if we want to create a synthetic magnet, right? We don't a magnet we shut on and off. We'll create a coil, and then that will, like this, and then we'll run power through it. Whatever, could be AC power. I'll just put positive and negative for, and run power through a coil, and then we'll get a magnetic field. You get two plumes, right? So this is similar to this magnet if you run it through. So here's the thing: we know that and we know from mathematically that magnetic fields, and this is how clamp meters work. Mathematically, magnetic fields and the current through a wire are fixed. It's a fixed relationship, man. The density to the wire, to the turns, everything, it's all fixed. Okay, so. But then we come across these magnets on Earth, right, or the universe, or a magnetite, or any kind of object that exhibits a magnetic field, and we're okay. We're like, well, it exists because the regions inside are aligned, and yeah, when a substance becomes magnetized, yet there are regions that become aligned. But the thing is that the math tells us that magnetism and current flow are related mathematically. So when I see a magnet, if you calculate backwards based on the magnetism you're seeing, what kind of current? It's just a magical thought thing, right? What kind of current would it take to create a magnetic field as strong as one of these neodymium? These magnets here. How much? They're pretty strong, right? How much current would it take to create? It would take a pretty good amount of current, although. It is a matter of turns on your coil and stuff, so you can optimize, but still, it would take power, some measurable, non-trivial amount of power to create that amount of current. So, my thing is like, how can this exist without a current existing? If this mathematical relationship between current flow and magnetism exists, how can you have a magnetic field and there's no current flow associated that we can measure, right, associated with this magnet, but nevertheless it exhibits this strong magnetic field. However it's manifested through whatever the characteristics of the material are, nevertheless we have a magnetic field like we do with this current. So my question is, where the frick is the current for this magnetic field? Now I'm sure everybody has not everybody, but I'm sure some wise asses have a quick answer, but I don't think they're going to be satisfactory, because you're telling me nature has this relationship over here, but then in this other special relationship over here. That it's not current and magnetism, it's magnetism and just something. Like, what is it? Magnetism and what holds it up, right? This is required. And I know you can heat this up and you can change the temperature and you can remove the magnetism from it. But I'm not talking about the object itself necessarily. I'm talking about the magnetic field. This seems to suggest that where there is a magnetic field, where they say where there is smoke, there is fire, right? Where there is a magnetic field, there is a freaking current, all right? That's the truth with wiring. And if this is just current running through, or if it's purposefully to make a magnet, right, to create the magnetic field. Either direction that you're doing this, the math holds. All of a sudden, well, there's no current. Okay, so here's the thing. I believe that some dimension, and I don't mean like an alien where ghosts live and shit. I mean some like physical, some interesting phenomena that we haven't been able to sort of characterize about space, the space that we live in, the space around us, that contains this current somewhere. I believe somewhere there is maybe a dimension. I don't, and again, I don't mean ghostly shit. I mean like a physical dimension where there is a current and there is no magnetic field. And then there it is, nature balanced, right? For every magnetic, for every amount of flux, there will be some current somewhere. So let's just pretend. Let's just go with me, man. Even you skeptics. If if it's true that nature says anywhere you find a magnetic field, you should also find a current. If we assume that is like an axiom, then when we look at a magnet, then our first question should be, where is that current? Like if we just assume that there's a current associated with, the next thing is we must find that current. The answer to the energy problem is finding the current that's associated. We're not saying it's coming out of this object. What I'm saying is that there is a magnetic field that's measurable. There should be a current somewhere that's commensurate with this magnetic field. Okay? So where is it? The question is if we can find it, right? Now, one of the thought things I came across was, well, of course you get them. You just run it, you move it, a magnet across a wire. That's how you get the current from that magnetic field. No, the current that you generate when you move across a wire with a magnet is not coming from the magnetic field. It's coming from the energy of you moving it, right? Because when you stop, the current stops. It's not from the magnetic field. It's from the change in the magnetic field across the wire. The change, right? Because when I slow down and stop out here, it goes to nothing. And then when I come across, it's max, and then it goes to nothing, right? And then it comes back, it's the max. Okay? But when I stop, there's no more current flow. Okay? But see, when you stop with a magnet, the magnet's still running with a magnetic field, just like a DC wire would be running. Just sitting there. A DC wire just sitting there has a magnetic field. That's how you measure it with a clamp meter, or an AC field as well. Where is the current for this magnet? That's my mission. I want to find, because I'm going to assume that for anywhere a magnetic field manifests, there is a current somewhere. I assume this is the fact. I might be stupid. I know somebody's like, yeah, you are stupid. Of course somebody thinks that. But the thing is, nobody's convinced me that that's not true. I've had people try to explain me about the characteristics of the material. I don't care about the material. I'm talking about the magnetic field, the manifestation of the magnetic field in space. The manifestation of the magnetic field is indistinguishable whether it's from a magnet or from a freaking wire or a coil. Indistinguishable. There's no way to tell the difference. Unless your electricity's not smooth, but that's not making it indistinguishable. The nature of the magnetic field, totally indistinguishable. But yet we say, well, it's just a magnet, and of course there's no current, because what sense can you use to measure the current? So the thing is, it's what you assume, right? So I assume there is a current related to this magnetic field, and we don't know how to access it, right? And this is my idea, right? We're going to make a machine, not even a machine, because machines have this doesn't even have moving parts. It's going to be like, you're going to put it together. There's going to be like it's going to have to be sort of like I don't know what it's going to have to be like. I'm not going to lock myself down, but I'm imagining at the moment it's like an antenna, right? So you put it there, right? Then the current just gets generated through your configuration. I don't know, but you put it there in space, and you have this magnetic field. See, now it changes the configuration, right? The whole magnetic field changes, right? So I'm not saying that it's the shape of the magnetic field. I'm saying that when a magnetic field manifests, that there's a freaking current somewhere, and we're too stupid to find it. The day we figure out, and you're sitting there, and you could sit in your chair, you put your stupid little, whatever we call this thing, and you figure out how to get that current, right? I don't know. Get the current somehow, figure it out, and then we got a wire coming out. Electricity. I think electricity is a good way to run. A lot of things run pretty nice on electricity, right? Hook up some electricity, man. I got some light bulbs. Now I'm there. I'm out in the middle of freaking nowhere. I can do anything. I can grow plants. I can get some light bulbs. I mean, if I'm really ambitious and I have other people, we can have manufacturing. If you have free energy, you could do anything. You can manufacture your own. Manufacture stuff, especially if you have other people. And once you have one device, you can manufacture another device. And now you have twice that access. And I believe there's more energy out there available than we can even imagine. Okay. So my axioms are: every magnetic field has to have an associated current, and we just can't find it, and that there's probably an infinite or at least for our freaking purposes, an infinite amount of energy in these. We're missing something something fundamental. We're missing something very fundamental, and I don't know what it is yet. All right, well, that's my opinion about things. So what is a magnetic myth? The magnetic myth is that you can have a magnetic field without a current. That's the magnetic myth. Right? I don't believe nature is that sort of fickle. I think she demands, her rules hold no matter what the humans think. Is that it? I guess that's it, man. Thanks for coming by. I'll probably be making some crazy videos. I don't know. But I appreciate you. Thanks a lot. And I will catch you around upstream.